our state, urban and rural communities, and greater Minnesota have registered to be part of today's event. This level of interest from our community reflects the depth, the reach, and the urgency of what people are experiencing right in this moment. We know that the disruption and loss of disability services have created fear and instability across Minnesota. We also acknowledge with deep gravity that there has been a death associated with the loss of services. This is not a theoretical harm, it is real and it is devastating. People with disabilities and their families are telling us they are afraid of losing the supports that allow them to live independently, afraid of institutionalization, afraid of being disbelieved, and afraid that their lives are being treated as collateral damage in a system meant to protect public resources. These fears are justified. When essential services are interrupted or withdrawn without adequate safeguards, the consequences can be irreversible. The Minnesota Council on Disability is here to hear from those directly affected, to honor their experiences, and to ensure that these voices are part of the public record. We believe accountability and safety are possible without sacrificing the services and dignity of people with disabilities. That, that belief begins with listening, especially when the stakes are this high. Thank you to everyone who is here today, particularly those who are sharing experiences at great personal cost. We see you, we are listening, and we are taking this moment seriously. Today's event will not be recorded. We will summarize this event in a report that will go back to the legislature and state leaders. That report will then be on our website in the coming weeks. And that's on the Minnesota Council on Disabilities website. Now, before we begin, I have a couple quick housekeeping notes. We are planning on spending about 90 minutes together today. This event, as I said earlier, will not be recorded, but the summary will be posted to the MCD website in a couple of weeks. CART services can be enabled in your Zoom control, or you can use the stream text link. And I believe that is in the chat if people are interested in clicking on that. And then ASL services will be provided for the whole event. As you can see to my left or right, I'm not quite sure, but they will be on for the whole duration. Just so you know, the chat is disabled, but if at any time you have any questions or concerns or anything that arises, we encourage you to email Nicolette, NICOLETTE SHEGSTAD at state.mn.us. So again, if anything comes up during this, please send an email to Nicolette. Okay, and now we are going to begin. I'm excited for all of the individuals we have participating today. So, the Minnesota Council on Disability values communities across our state, which is one of the reasons why we're holding this event virtually. MCD has held this event in person before, but holding it virtually allows people from every corner of this great state to participate. So I am going to ask our tech team to pull up our first poll, which I will encourage you all, and I will also vote in it. Our first poll is to help us understand who's joining us today. So, the first question, to help us understand who is in the room today, please let us know where you live. Option 1, the 7-county metro area. Option 2, Northwest Minnesota. Option 3, Northeast Minnesota. Option 4, Central Minnesota. Option 5, Southwest Minnesota. And the final option 7 is Southeast Minnesota. So you are only able to click on one. And then after you click on your choice, you will then need to click the blue submit button. And we'll give you a couple seconds here to select yours, and then we will get the results on the screen so we can see where everybody is coming to us from. Okay, so our first poll results, you should see in front of you. We have 56% of attendees coming from the 7-county metro area. We have 6% coming from Northwest Minnesota. We have 3% coming from Northeast Minnesota, 20% coming from Central Minnesota, 6% coming from Southwest Minnesota, and our last 9% coming from, they pulled it off, I think it's Southeast Minnesota. Am I right? Okay. So it's amazing that we have people from all regions here today, and that is important to the council. I know it's important to the elected officials who are joining, who you'll hear with later today. So I am going to now send it over to the executive director of the Minnesota Council on Disability. This is somebody who I got to work with as part of my time on the council. So I will introduce him. Here's Executive Director David Dively. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Quinn. Always nice to see you and see you again. Thank you. We are so thankful and appreciative of everyone who's come out today, all the staff and partners who are working right now to make this event happen as well. MCD, for some of you who may not know, is the state of Minnesota's independent policy, training, and technical assistance agency on disability. And I serve under our council, who is made up of governor-appointed members from across the state, from parents to folks with disabilities, providers, and more. We are not here to defend systems or debate the intentions behind why things happened. We are here to listen to each other. It's about witnessing some of the pain that people have experienced and anger. There's a lot of exhaustion that people around the state are carrying at this moment. And we've really heard you loud and clear over the last few months that you wanted us to put together something so that these conversations might be able to bring us forward. With that, we don't have time to have all 700 plus people who registered for this event to participate and speak, which is why we have some polls to make sure you can still have your perspectives and thoughts heard today. The number of people who registered for today's event, from what we can tell, is the largest of any event in MCD's 50-plus year history, which is a testament both to how serious some of the challenges are that we are experiencing, but also a small silver lining of how engaged and involved our disability community is in this government process. So as we kind of transition here into our second poll question, Again, responses are anonymous, but it will help us as we move forward into our legislative session to understand where all of you are at. So with that, the second poll question is going to come up on your screen. MCD poll 2. What is your biggest concern right now related to services or supports? Select one. First option is losing the services I rely on. Option 2, services being reduced or disrupted. Services 3, being investigated, flagged, or blamed. Services 4, or option 4 rather, not knowing what's happening or what comes next. Or option 5, the stress and impact on my health or my family. With that, I will hand it over to Joel Runnels, our Legislative Affairs Director, and you will get the results of that poll shortly. I'm just waiting for Joel to come up on screen here. Welcome, Joel. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And as said, my name is Joel Runnels. I'm a white male with brown, now somewhat graying hair and beard. And as our executive director has shared, one of the roles that we play here in the council is working public policy and legislation. And so I will share briefly on work that we have done last year and this year, and especially moving forward into the 2027 legislative session, and how that both informs and grounds our meeting, our event today. As you've seen, we here at the council like to ask you to share your lived experiences, and we've already seen this in action in the two polls we've had. In addition, many of you were invited and responded to the opportunity to share your lived experiences in regards to if and how your services have been disrupted during the ongoing fraud investigations. Even a step back from today's event, last year, some of you might had seen us at the state fair and at a number of county fairs and statewide community events with our legislative priorities survey, which was an invitation to you to simply highlight what disability work matters most to you. That was utilized to then fill out our legislative, our 2026 legislative agenda. And so I am pleased to share that that's available on our website. So I won't read that agenda to you all verbatim. However, I will just very briefly walk through some of that and the relevancy of it. We have 6 legislative priorities there, and it might not surprise you all that the first agenda item is people-centered fraud prevention and enforcement reform, which really speaks to this event. And I'll go more in depth on after touching on the others as well. The second priority is stabilize home and community supports. The third priority is to improve access to affordable, high-quality health care. Our fourth priority is modernize outdated systems and reduce administrative burdens. And priority 5 is expand accessible, affordable housing and strengthen protections. And last but not least is priority 6, to improve infrastructure access statewide. Now, for priority 1, which is people-centered fraud prevention and enforcement reform, this is really what we want to speak to and explore with all of you in this virtual space this afternoon, because what we had seen from results from our legislative survey and lived experiences responses from event registrants is that Minnesotans were clear that yes, fraud should be addressed. However, enforcement must be proportional, transparent, and designed to protect continuity and continuement of care. And that's something that I think we'll hear from a number of folks who are following me. So I don't want to take up all of our time here, but simply welcome everyone and to say that we at the council are very collaborative and look forward to the opportunity to work with all partners and stakeholders to find resolutions to the issues we're going to be exploring, and especially as we approach our 2026 legislative session. So with that said, I will hand the floor back over to our moderator, Quinn.
Thank you so much, Joel. I know that was really appreciated. We are now going to put up on the screen the results of that second poll question. Again, we really want all the attendees as well as everybody participating later on to see what is your biggest concern right now related to services or supports. So 11% of you responded. Out of the roughly, I think we believe there's just over 700 people attending. 11% responded that losing the services I rely on. 48% of you said services being reduced or disrupted. 4% answered being investigated, flagged, or blamed. 31% said not knowing what's happening or what comes next. And then 7% of you responded the stress and impact on my health or family. And I know for myself in the disability community, I probably could have checked a couple of those off. I know we only let you choose one. So that gives us a good thing of kind of where people are tuning in from and what are the pressing things that are top of mind. Now, I am going to introduce our next speaker. We are thrilled to have her join us today, and that is our Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, who I've had the honor of working on some emergency insulin legislation together. And so I know all of our electeds have busy schedules, so I'm going to pass it over to her now. So Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Quinn. I'm grateful to be able to be here with you. This is Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. I have brown hair that is cut into a bob. I am wearing gold earrings. I've got a green and white jacket on, and I am coming to you from my vehicle. I am not driving, to be clear, and I'm wearing a seatbelt. So just so grateful that we can be together in this virtual space, and I want to just first thank everybody for showing up today, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your willingness to share your stories, to voice your ideas, to participate in the polls online, and for being brave at a time when others want us to be fearful and voiceless and try to box us in. So, the truth is that the realities that have been unfolding around us have been extremely traumatizing and really scary for folks. But we have seen thoughtful and caring efforts emerge in helping each other. And I think that is really core to who we are as Minnesotans. And I want to speak directly to what many have been experiencing or having to navigate. And I want to call out and recognize what has been taking place within our state as we are operating in a climate where fraud prevention has become a central priority across public benefit systems. Accountability is essential, but when these efforts are rolled out quickly or broadly, they can have unintended effects, particularly for people living with disabilities who rely on Medicaid, not as a backup, but and this has become a matter of life and death for some folks. And we need to name that when we talk about what is happening with payment delays, so that together we can continue to ensure that the lives of Minnesotans with disabilities and our aging populations come first and are being fiercely protected. More now than ever, we've seen a Minnesota where its neighbors stand up for one another and refuse to be silent. And I want to be clear that collective organizing is working, and it's working here in Minnesota. It's having an impact, so please continue using your voices and sharing your stories whenever possible. And as part of raising your voices, we have to better understand about these experiences and delays that folks are having in Medicaid payments that they cause, and they cause ripple effects that across the state of Minnesota. And these are not just, quote, administrative details. They are real life disruptions. And when payments to providers stall, it can mean hours of care or essential support services that are not being provided to folks or lost. And it means going without staff, who can't be paid. And so these delays are happening through no fault of yours or your providers. So I want to be really clear on what's happening in Minnesota right now. The Department of Human Services has started a new prepayment review process that includes 14 high-risk Medicaid services. And under this process, claims for many home-based care services and disability services are being held for a review before payment. This often means that payments have been taking longer than their typical 2-week cycle, and in some cases are causing significant delays for providers. As part of a larger effort to address past fraud in social services programs, an effort that we support in the sense that we want every dollar to be going to real care, not waste or abuse by bad actors. But here's the thing: preventing fraud and protecting people shouldn't be in conflict with one another. And we cannot allow anti fraud efforts to undermine access to the supports which Minnesotans use and rely on to make independent living a possible reality for folks. So, what's being done about this? I want to be clear that while we are in the process of revalidating thousands of Medicaid providers, the Department of Human Services is also working to speed up claim reviews and where possible, and to improve transparency by taking steps to update both providers and their families about processes and timelines. We're also actively appealing a federal decision that could withhold billions of dollars in federal Medicaid funds to Minnesota, because we know that losing these dollars would put programs and services and the lives of Minnesotans at greater risk. I also want to recognize that state actions alone haven't been enough to stop this from impacting the lives of people across the state. And I want to share that our administration remains committed to working with legislators to ensure that protections are in place so that legitimate providers, especially for those who provide services for Minnesotans with disabilities, are not caught in the middle. This means exploring opportunities for payment continuity, emergency stabilization support, and improved timelines and oversight that allows care to continue without interruptions. So, to every Minnesotan who is here today and who depends on these services, I want you to know that I hear you and I see you. Your dignity, your independence, and your health and overall well being are not political abstractions. And we have to be clear about that. They are at the heart of why the governor continues to serve and why we are continuing to do this work every day with transparency, with urgency, to ensure that every Minnesotan can continue to receive the care and services that they need and that they deserve. I know you will all be engaging in impactful conversations throughout today's forum, and please know that members of my team are on this call and will be so in its entirety. So they will be here to be able to take notes and to help support wherever they can. And I want to be clear that I know how personal this feels for people right now. And I know that you are carrying a tremendous amount, and I want you to know that we're going to continue to do everything that we can. So thank you for having me. Please know that I will hold your stories with great honor and respect, and will continue to speak out in whatever way I can. So thank you for allowing me to spend some time today. Quinn, thank you for moderating. Thank you to the Minnesota Council on Disability. We're doing incredibly important work. We are with you. And while as Lieutenant Governor and as Siobhan's mom, I always want to be able to say it's going to be okay. And right now it feels like that is hard to do. I want to tell you that I am in this with you and will be here with you to support in whatever way I can. Gitchi Miigwech, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to hearing about the additional conversations that you have today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, for taking the time to join us from the road. And we appreciate your honesty. We appreciate your personal connection, and we appreciate everything that your office is doing to continue to address the things that will be spoken about here shortly by our 3 advocates and users who will be so bravely sharing their personal experiences. So thank you so much for joining us. Okay, now moving on to our next session of the agenda. There are 3 advocates and users of various disability services throughout Minnesota. I was so happy to get to hear a little bit of their stories when I got to connect with them yesterday. I know they each inspired me, they informed me, and they challenged me And so our first advocate will be Alma Silver, and she will be joining us to talk about her personal experience, her journey, and things that she has come up against just with the ever evolving environment here in Minnesota. So, welcome, Alma. It's great to see you.
Good afternoon, community members. My name is Alma Silver. I use she and her pronouns, and I am a white woman with curly brown hair and glasses, wearing a black cardigan and blue scarf. I am seated in a wheelchair and using an AAC device to communicate. I moved to West St. Paul in the summer of 2021. Since then, I have established a career as a freelance accessibility consultant and adult educator, and I successfully use Caddy waiver services to live independently in my own home. I rely on Medicaid to support a 24/7 rotation of direct support professionals who facilitate my basic care needs and access to the community. I hire my caregivers through an external agency to receive the consistent care coverage I need. Without these services, I would not be able to sustain my independence, and I would likely be placed in an institutional setting. On December 31st of last year, I first received notice from my care agency that 95% of the services that they billed for had been put into suspension due to the executive order signed by Governor Walz back in October. Depended on a future review by Optum, the third party for supposedly high risk Medicaid programs. After receiving this notice, I had no idea whether my team of 12 caregivers were going to receive their next paychecks. This created a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety for both me and my caregivers. Many of them have worked with me for over 3 years now, and all of them rely on this income to support their families and pay for the essentials that they need to survive, including rent and groceries. Most of my caregiver team comes from immigrant communities. On top of worrying about their immediate safety under the constant threats posed by ICE, I now had to worry about their livelihood. During the payment suspension period, I felt like I was trapped in an impossible corner. I tried desperately to think of a plan B that did not involve me losing access to life-sustaining care that I need to survive and thrive. Without the ability to pay my caregivers, I would have no option except to leave behind the independent life I have built for myself in Minnesota. This is a life that has brought me meaningful work, travel adventures, a family of my own, and a community I love. This is a life that I have worked tirelessly to create for myself, even within a system that is designed for people like me to live in a congregate setting. My right to live a safe, fulfilled, and self-directed life in my community is directly jeopardized and threatened by the statewide fraud audits. A devastating human cost is incurred when providers and clients are forced to shoulder the blame, without discretion, of the politically and racially charged rhetoric that is distorting Minnesota's quote-unquote fraud problem. Even amidst the terror and uncertainty that the statewide funding freeze created, I have so many privileges and resources at my disposal. I have a strong network of family and friends within driving distance. My caregivers continued to show up, and I had several community volunteers lined up to provide care without pay if necessary. My care agency ultimately secured enough funding to continue paying my employees. For now. The layers of privilege that protected me from the full effects of the prepayment review process are the exception, and not the norm. Fellow disability community members have had their care services suspended indefinitely because of these systemic actions. Smaller care agencies across the state have been forced to shut down operations, owing to the financial repercussions of having their service reimbursements delayed for so long. I know people in my immediate circle who are needing to ration meal times or find ways to transfer themselves out of bed because of the lack of available caregiver hours. Nothing about this is humane or justifiable. The system is failing disabled Minnesotans and their caregivers. I have listened to lawmakers and disability service professionals talk about transition plans and protocols for relocating people whose services have been suspended under the prepayment review process. What I am not hearing enough people acknowledge is that disabled people never needed to be put into this crisis in the first place. I should not need to be here advocating for the baseline supports that disabled people need to live independently and access their communities like anyone else. We should not need to justify our right to exist. Frankly, I am tired of disabled people being treated like disposable pawns in a systemic game of chess. I am tired of our care needs and basic rights being used as bargaining chips to fight against fraud without any due process for individuals or providers. Now, more than ever, disability community members and their allies across Minnesota need to be at the forefront of collaborative and sustainable solutions. Our voices need to be elevated in decision-making spaces and not treated as an afterthought. I implore lawmakers and leaders at the Department of Human Services to intentionally listen to disabled leaders and advocates, and to understand how devastating it is to lose our access to essential services. I also strongly urge for the passage of legislation that prohibits the state from putting life-sustaining services on pause, even during audit processes. Disabled community members are already facing attacks on Medicaid funding on a federal level. We should not be facing these attacks on a state level as well. Minnesota has an opportunity to be a leader in protecting disabled people's rights to live, work, and thrive in their chosen communities. We deserve so much more than advocating for our survival.
Thank you so much, Alma, for sharing, for your honesty, for your vulnerability. You are right. Y- you do not need to justify for your basic human rights. And I'm grateful that you showed up brave and vulnerable to share with us all, so that we could learn more about you and your life. And I know there is so much more to you than just being an advocate and showing up to speak today. And again, thank you for joining us. And we'll go to our next advocate, and then we will have some of those government agencies and elected officials be able to respond later in this webinar. So our second advocate who will be sharing their personal experience with you all today is Cassandra McWade, who is joining us. Welcome, Cassandra. Cassandra, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you see me?
Yep, we
Oh,
can.
okay. I apologize. I couldn't tell. I apologize. Hi.
You can take it away and they'll take me off the screen and you can
Okay.
share your story with all of us.
Thank you. I'm a 34-year-old disabled white woman with brown hair who receives IHS and PCA services. I recently broke my leg, and I'm here today to tell you my story. On December 14th, I arrived at HCMC Hospital by ambulance. On the 15th, I had surgery for an external fixator that would stabilize my leg while awaiting the more intensive surgery. In the meantime, they put me in a TCU, a nursing home with empty beds to fill temporarily. To be clear, these are licensed facilities approved and financed by the Department of Health. After objecting to the first facility for lack of any good reviews, they informed me that whatever facility they found for me next was where I was going. Thankfully, when they gave me the name, I saw some positive reviews, so I wasn't as uneasy about going. I arrived at the St. Louis Park facility on Christmas Eve. Despite acknowledging that the rooms were far too hot for many residents, causing excessive sweating, there were no fans available for me to use, and the windows barely opened. Clean sheets for the bariatric beds were hard to come by. The bed bath done the night before my surgery was done so poorly that after some sweating, I developed a psoriasis flare up that I'm still battling. I don't understand how a Department of Health funded facility doesn't have basic hygiene tools like a nail file or enough equipment to combat known issues for most of their residents. On top of their failures of residential care, they failed me in the coordinated care. Being that I arrived on Christmas Eve, they didn't schedule a ride for my pre op appointment on December 26th. So I'd been kindly beating the drum multiple times a day about making sure I had a ride for my surgery date on December 29th. That morning, I asked when I should be expecting my non emergency medical transportation ride. I was told, "Oh, Miss Cassandra, there is an issue." I said, "Don't tell me that. We've been having this talk for 4 days. It's my surgery day, and I won't be missing it. It's your job to make it happen, so please find out when I can expect that ride." It was only after my mother called and gave them a what for that they jumped into action and found a solution: abusing emergency resources. The facility fixer came in and asked me to play along like I'm in 10 out of 10 pain, and she'll call EMS to make sure that I'm at the hospital, where I can then tell them that I have surgery upstairs. No, I was not about to make a fool of myself for their failures and misuse of resources. Not to mention that this course of action really pissed off the ER staff. However, they were miffed with me, not the TCU. That's not to mention that it cost the state loads of extra money to send me through the ER because I had to be processed as an ER patient first, which ran us close to the wire for getting me to my surgery on time. My biggest question is, why was my voice not enough? I'm a cognizant, competent, and vocal individual. However, my voice wasn't taken seriously enough to create effective change to my situation in an important moment. If they're not listening to people as bold and outspoken as myself, what about those who have little to no voice of their own? Who is effectively ensuring that their needs are being taken seriously on a daily basis, not just periodic check ins? Those without a respected voice simply forego reasonable and respectful care. It was so bad there that I refused to go back after my surgery. The doctor agreed, but made me prove I'd have 24-hour care as I would in the TCU. We made it happen between my partner, a friend, and IHS services, but it meant flying through my IH service hours. I will be left with 1 day a week of hours by the end of this. That's not nearly enough, and there's no option to add more to my care plan for extenuating circumstances, as there are for PCA hours, which was still only approved for an extra 2 hours a day. Quite frankly, the amount of IHS hours I'm given in a week as is not enough for the help I need out in the community or to take on any real project in my home. If I'm home alone, I'm still fairly limited in my options. It's a problem. Heads up, there is fraud to be found in TCUs and nursing homes in the billing department. They had me down as being there from the December 3rd to December 29th. I'd like to remind you that I broke my leg on December 14th. After being called out, they now claim that it was a typo and that I was there from December 23rd to the 29th, which is still inaccurate. It has caused issues for my care providers trying to submit for payments for those couple of weeks before I went into the hospital in December of 2025. Look into conglomerate billing practices. When a company is beholden to shareholders, having enough fans and sheets or being sure residents make it to appointments on time isn't their biggest concern. Basic necessities and medical requests can be brushed off if they're simply inconvenient or cost money, and we don't have much recourse. A couple good nurses don't make up for bad business practices. So instead of overwhelming hands on care providers with excessive time consuming documentation, put that onus on the billing department to be accountable for where they're actually putting that money. Because this new level of documentation required per shift is only giving good people worse burnout in fields that already have a high turnover rate. Putting 15 minutes of documentation on a care provider is 15 minutes taken away from hands on care, or they're working off the clock to do it. Who's that helping? There has to be a better way. Lastly, something else to consider about that's being affected by this are things like remote services. I don't know what my day will look like until I wake up. I deal with many competing health issues. Sometimes I'm unable to deal with lights from migraines. Sometimes I'm veritably chained to the bathroom. Sometimes clothes feel like sandpaper on my skin. It's really rough. I never know if I can make it to a doctor's appointment until the morning of. The liberties that these services provide to our community may seem like luxuries, but they're lifelines. Those without such services are left to simply forego necessary care or often have to wait up to 2 more months before they can get another opportunity to see a specialist. Our ability to thrive is delayed. Lives continue to tick by in the meantime. Please consider these factors in your choices as our representatives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. I know they're asking me to stand by as they find me, but thank you so much for sharing your story, your experiences with all of us here today. You have such a strong voice, and your passion comes through in every word. And
Glad to do
uh,
it.
Thank you so much. And as we had spoken about before, we'll have people later on in the program be able to hopefully address some of those things, those critical things that you brought up today. So thank
And
you so much.
I will gladly continue to be a voice for the community and find ways to speak up at such events and take on community voices and try to speak for them as well going forward.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. We appreciate that, and that is very much needed. So I will now introduce our third and last advocate, who is going to be speaking today. I got the pleasure to spend some time with her yesterday, um, and thoroughly enjoyed hearing about her and her perspective. So next up, we have Lydia Dolly. Lydia, take it away.
Hi, my name is Lydia Dolly. I have short brown hair with pink glasses. I am in a power wheelchair. I am wearing my favorite rainbow pants. Yes, rainbow. A black shirt that says every day I'm modeling with a picture of a communication device on it. I live in St. Paul. I work for the St. Paul public school system, helping young adults transition into independent life. I grew up in Iowa and I went to college in Wisconsin, so I have experience with disability services in the tri-state area. The common denominator for services are they can be held, suspended, or completely stopped for reasons out of our control, and the people making these decisions have no clue how it affects our lives. I have cerebral palsy, So to help you understand my life, imagine having to wear boxing gloves and every time you try to reach for something, someone knocks it out of your reach. It can be frustrating to say the least. So I need help to feed myself, take a shower, take my medicine, and to change my clothes, just to name a few things. So when services are stopped, I cannot eat, I cannot shower, I cannot change my clothes. Not only does it affect what I cannot do, it affects the people who help me. They no longer get a paycheck, so I lose my staff that I have learned to trust and who know me. Luckily for me, my mom left her job after 20 plus years to work from home, so she can pick up and move in with me while I have no services and she helps me. And since my dad has passed away, my mom has to rely on others to watch her farm and feed her dog while she's with me. So you see, it affects more than just me. My staff gets paid so little they can't support their families, so they have to have another job or two. My staff are not allowed to work 40 hours because then they would have to be offered benefits. It's so hard to find good, loyal staff that show up consistently because of the pay and not allowed to work 40 hours. There are so many things that need to be changed about disability services. We are not asking to have everything given to us. We just want to be independent and have the ability to work and be part of society, but we need help to do that. I feel that people who are born with a disability that they will have their whole life, like cerebral palsy, shouldn't have to continually be reevaluated as their condition won't go away. My parents were told by a doctor before I was even 2 years old that I would not be able to contribute to my community, and if they kept me at home, life would be so hard. Well, that was the last time I saw that doctor. I have fought and advocated for myself since I was 3 years old. Someday I have hope someone will listen to me and disability services will get better. My staff gets paid so little they can't support their families, so they have to have another job or two. My staff are not allowed to work 40 hours because then they would have to be offered benefits. It's so hard to find good, loyal staff that show up consistently because of the pay and not allowed to work 40 hours. My disability is for my lifetime. There's no cure, it will never go away. So this is my life forever. Something needs to change. No one should ever go without eating or going to the bathroom because they physically can't. With my cerebral palsy, I am also nonverbal, so I use an iPad to communicate. This poses a whole separate set of issues. Since I have uncontrollable movements, I have a hard time articulating words with my mouth. I got my first assistive communication device when I was 4 years old. I've had many different types of devices through the years. There is a lot of documentation needed to support the medical necessity for insurance companies to cover communication devices. My parents' insurance never has covered AAC devices. Luckily for me, medical assistants did. But they also control your voice, in my opinion, because you can only get a device every 5 years. We all know how fast technology advances, so waiting 5 years already puts you behind technology advances. Plus, you have to justify needing a different communication device every time you want insurance to help pay for it. I use Metro Mobility to go to and from work. For those that don't know, this is a handicap bus company. I can make and cancel reservations online. I have to use this bus system because the handicap van my mom got me was stolen out of my apartment's secure garage and it was crashed. So lucky me, I got to start riding the bus. I received a letter from the bus company that my services were going to be suspended because I had canceled 4 rides. Really? You're going to take away my only way of transportation? Things happen out of my control, but once again it is the person with disabilities that pays the price. Since I'm nonverbal, my mom had to call in to explain I had gotten sick, and one day my work canceled due to weather. Well, they had to have someone review it and call me back. With this bus company, you cannot make same-day reservations. So if something comes up, and I need or want to go somewhere, that's not an option for me unless I know at least 24 hours in advance. The same goes if my work lets out early due to weather. I'm out of luck. I can't change my time to be picked up on the same day. Does this make sense to any of you? Having my own vehicle for staff to drive isn't the answer either, because the caregiving companies don't want to worry about insurance on staff driving my vehicle. I do carry insurance, but most companies won't let their staff drive a client's vehicle. Please listen. Please see us. And please include us in decisions for the services that affect our daily lives. Thank you.
I'm sure I can speak for everybody, Lydia. Thank you. I know yesterday when we spoke, my 9-year-old was homesick from school and she wrote a letter as she heard your story. And I'm going to get your address after this so I can mail it to you. But I want to let you know by sharing your personal experience, um, a lot of these horrible hurdles, um, you are making more than an impact on just your community. You are making an impact on this state and this country. and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. And again, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. And I think this brings up a lot of good questions that hopefully our elected officials will be able to bring back with them as the start of the legislative session kicks off here shortly. So thank you so much, Lydia.
Thank you.
Thank you to the three advocates who so bravely shared. I know there's nearly 1,000 people joining us today, and I know your stories are just as powerful. And we, as the Minnesota Council on Disability, want to hear them. We have just a shortened amount of time together today, but please know that our lines are open, the emails are open, so that we can best get this information to our policy team, to the council, and to elected officials and government agencies, so we can be the best advocates for people with disabilities here in Minnesota. So as we wrap up that part, we have a third and final poll question that they're going to bring up on screen here. So, which best describes how you're feeling about disability services in Minnesota right now? Option 1, I trust the system will be fair. Option 2, I'm not sure the system will be fair. Option 3, I'm cautiously hopeful. Option 4, I'm concerned and waiting to see what happens. And our final option 5, I'm feeling overwhelmed and afraid. On this poll, you are only able to choose a single choice. So you can click on that, and then you will click the blue submit button. I also, just as a reminder, as we are waiting for people to submit, I want to say again, any questions or parts of your story that maybe you want shared, please submit those to Nicolette Shagstead. I'm going to read off her email again so that you know who to direct those messages to, as we do have the chat disabled today. So questions can be submitted to Nicolette, NICOLETTE Shagstead, SHEGSTAD at state, STATE .mn.us. So please use that. And hopefully now everybody's had a chance who wanted to choose how they're best feeling right now. And I also do want to remind everybody, I should have reminded you earlier, that all of these poll answers are completely anonymous. And so we appreciate everybody for taking the time to answer. So our poll results are back. 1% of you on this call today say you trust this system will be fair. 9% of you responded with, I'm not sure the system will be fair. 10% of you responded, I'm cautiously hopeful. And 58% of you responded with, I'm concerned and waiting to see what happens. And our last option, with 22% of you responding with, I'm feeling overwhelmed and afraid. So thank you so much for participating, everybody, so that we can get a little sampling that we can put into our summary. Now, as I spoke about earlier, we wanted to be able to invite Minnesota elected officials I know that they have joined. They have been on here from the beginning of the call. It was important to them to hear from all of you, to see the polls. And the first two that we will be having share a little, we'll have a conversation with the questions, is Senator Paul Utke and State Senator Jim Abler. Thank you both for joining us today. Thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing and hopefully, again, helping everybody on this call maybe move from concern and fear to getting to a place where they feel more confident that everyday life-saving services will continue for them. So gentlemen, whoever would like to go first, I'll give it to you.
I guess I'll start if you like. So I'm Jim Abler, a state senator, brown hair. I have blue glasses that I don't wear enough. And I got a purple and green striped shirt. I'm decades old as a male, so just people can guess about that. But it's my privilege to serve, and I've been on the Human Services Committee every one of my 26 years now. So I can't believe I've been here that long. And I entered knowing almost nothing, and now I'm just grieving as I listen today to the calls. I just want to maybe suggest to Alma and Cassandra and Lydia that maybe they should go into public speaking, because the eloquence of their stories and living their lives is profound. And so just so you know, in my work as the chairman and working with Senator John Hoffman, who's not here today, we've tried to take the politics out of human services and make it be about the people. And very often, if you listen to the two of us talk, you'll wonder which one of us is talking, or speaking for the rest of the members of the committee. You'll hear from Senator Utke and Senator May Quaid and Senator Rasmussen and the rest that we really do care a lot. So, and just I guess I'll offer a comment, and then we'll see where you want to go with this, Quinn. But before I do that, I want to just have a little light moment here. Highland Popcorn is run by Connor O'Meara, and they're having a sale this week. It's really good. It's 2 for 1 on these, and he's got these really cool little bracelets, and he's a member of our community here, and has a very tasty caramel corn. So actually, and he has and that's actually kind of consistent with the topic. So he's down in Highland Park, and I just went there today, which is why I'm just fresh on that. So just everybody talks about fraud, and I've been working on that longer than anybody, I think, having hearings way back in 2017 and 18. But in the middle of all the fraud discussion, like Alma and the rest were so eloquent, there's people in the middle of it. And there's life-saving, services that go on and helping people stay independent and having a ride to get their dialysis and all of that. My goodness, sorry. Anyway, and so it's on our mind. It's on my mind. And so in all this fraud discussion, we have to remember the people. And, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan was here, and she expressed her concern about some of the fraud efforts that are going on. Just kindly, I would like to have her go talk to her boss and remind her that some of these changes that have come like out of the blue from the administration. And I'm not here to be political, but like, holy cow, we just had a hearing, Senator Hoffman and all of us sat at a hearing last week talking about this. And this 2-week delay has been underemphasized for how impactful it is. Some people are going out of business, and that was an effort. And I'm not here to criticize the governor at all, and we're not going in any of that place, but it's important that the efforts you do to control fraud don't make it really bad for the people involved. And there's 2 things that have happened. One is a 2-week delay, which nobody even knew. And the second is this credible allegation of fraud business where you never get it resolved and the companies get their funding cut off if they made some modest error, even longstanding companies. And it's really on my mind. And so my intention is to sit down with the department and my colleagues and find some way to modify this so it doesn't cause the harm. There's got to be a way to scrutinize bills without spending taking 2 weeks away from companies that are barely able to meet their payroll and in fact are not, and they're going out of business. So it's greatly troubling to me. And Alma, I think you just gave the most incredible story about the story. I mean, you told us your life and how horrifying that is. So I think that you're going to find just to the 1,000 people there, I think you're going to find that every member of the committee that touches this, which in both the House and the Senate, deeply cares about this. And so then as you encourage everybody that you run into to remind the administration, to work with the legislature, to work with, there's disability groups, and consortiums and people with, everybody who's touching this to make it work. We don't want fraud, but we don't want to have one person come to harm or not get services that they need. And that's my personal commitment. And I'm sure the other 3 legislators here will tell you that as well. And so it doesn't do any good to criticize what's been done personally, but it does matter a lot to point out what the unintended consequence was. And like, oh, we didn't mean that. So let's, without delay, get about fixing these problems that are there. So I think that's good for now, I think, Quinn, and I can reply more if anybody wants. So thank you so much for having me. And I want to encourage the 1,000 people on this call. You are important. You're important anyway, but where government touches you, it should work and it should be effective and it should help you live your life in the most amazing way possible. So anyway, thank you.
Oh, I think you're muted.
I was so nervous I would keep my mic on that I've muted myself. Thanks, Senator Abler. Please stay on. I know Senator Aki, if you'll say a couple words and then we can get to some of the questions that I know you guys would like to address that those 3 testimonies brought.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to everybody who is with us. I am a white male with dark hair, and today wearing a gray sport coat. And but unlike Senator Abler, I didn't bring any treats to the screen because he kind of outfoxed us there. That was good to see. But yeah, the 3 testifiers that just preceded us, and as Quinn and I talked earlier, it was like they kind of are going to lead this charge and tell us the story, and they did. And it's unfortunate. So many of these things could have been avoided with just a line of communication and some transparency between the agency and the providers, and in this case, the clients. When all of a sudden you find out the day of that your services are being interrupted or that your provider is not being paid, it's just a failure it's not acceptable. I mean, no matter what field we're in or whatever we're looking at, it can be better, and I'm surely hoping that everybody has learned from this really bad failure so that we don't repeat this going forward. I can't keep up with the years that Senator Abler's got in, but I've got starting my 10th year in the Minnesota Senate, and it's my 10th year in Human Services. So like Senator Abler, from the very beginning, we've been, just part of human services and everything else that we work with. So I've appreciated learning from, I should say, Senator Abler and many others who have got a lot of experience and working with people. And I heard a couple other things. We heard about, the services being interrupted and the shortfallings and possibly some billing errors. But one thing that always comes out in a lot of these cases too is for the providers sitting there having to do all this excess of paperwork and everything that comes along, it's all time that they aren't able to spend with the client, providing the service that they want to provide and the client needs. So we get to the point where, it's just, we got to figure out so we don't repeat these bad procedures and happenings. And then it's just, making and hopefully doing things that will give us I call it workforce stability. And that's what everybody's after, is just so that we know that those providers are going to show up when they're supposed to and be able to provide the services that they're hired to do, and provide the rides that the clients need and everything else that goes into this, just trying to help make their life better and more productive. And so with that, I would gladly move into, if there's any questions or things you have to add, go for it.
Yeah, I know we are running over on time per usual when we have just content, and we also have you two here who can hopefully help, right? And I know that's why you both went into public service. Let me ask you both. It'll be sort of two kind of answers I'm looking for, but knowing that your committee kicked off last week with 2 hearings, and knowing now here in a matter of days, weeks, the next Minnesota legislative session will kick off. Hearing from 3, and again, we know that there's nearly 1,000 just on this call right now who probably have similar stories, different stories. What is one thing that each of you are hoping to address, either through legislation, policy work, your influence with various government agencies, that you think is a reasonable goal to achieve this legislative session that could provide some of our attendees with some hope? And my second part to that is, what do you want from advocates, from users? Because I'll say, I know in my diabetes advocacy work with Senator Abler, I know you often would say, thank you for telling us how much a vial of insulin is. Thank you for telling us your specific story and your experience. Because without people living these experiences and then telling them to elected officials, sometimes you may or may not know. So what would you say to our advocates, our providers, our caregivers on today's call, of how they can be most impactful to relay their story and to get different hurdles that they've had be addressed this session?
You want to go, Paul?
Okay, I can jump in there. I guess, as Quinn, as you just finished up there, what can they do? Keep telling their story. That is the biggest thing. I know there's times even when we're in a hearing, and rather than me trying to put my own words out there, I've received letters from some of the clients and the people that are affected. I just read their letter. It's their words, and those type of things mean the most. So just keep telling their story, for each of them, keep telling your story. We just had 3 great presentations prior to us. That's the most impactful, those living it, the life. And what's one thing that we could do going into this session that starts here in, like you said, about another 10 days or whatever, but workforce stability. We've got to hopefully have some stability there so that we all are comfortable that when tomorrow comes, whoever's supposed to be there will be there. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, and just to pile on that, I think if you listened, and I came late, but I heard the 3 of you, Alma and the other 2, and it's just makes me want to weep. And so, but I did hear the Lieutenant Governor, and I think I heard a lot of passion in her voice and a lot of true concern, and I believe every word she said about how much she cares about this. And so she's an example of a leader who's in a position to actually do something about this. As our Paul and I are there, we're in a minority, but at least in this committee, there really isn't a majority minority compared to some of them. So that's pretty cool. But I think as each of you then reach out to particularly those in charge. Um, in the Senate, Aaron Murphy is the leader, and then in the House you have Representatives Damoth and Stevenson. They're going to be at the end deciding where the money goes, along with the governor's office. And so you want to make sure that they really hear this, and it doesn't have to just trickle up just from us. And so, but as you chat with them, and even your legislators, all 201 of us, you know, I mean, tell your story, but I'm going to tell you, don't settle for a hug. Don't settle for, oh, that's, oh, I feel so bad about that. Say, no, I need action. And my short-term efforts are to make sure this credible allegation of fraud business, it has to be a real one. And so many providers are being dinged by this that have been 20-year providers, and they aren't even allowed to know what they did. That's like just such a terrible idea. And there's 2-week delay. There's even members of the Department of Human Services didn't know the 2-week delay was coming. And just so you know, both of those are under the purview of the administration, which is DHS and the administration. They could undo this with another executive order. The 2-week thing came from an executive order, and the way it's implemented at the Office of Inspector General is under the control of the commissioner, who's under the control of the governor. And I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm just telling you where the chains of command lie. And this could be remedied in a short amount of time. And I know that the department's and the governor's very worried about the federal stuff going on, but there's plenty of things to do that show credible work toward fighting fraud that don't involve decimating the services to these pretty amazing people we just heard from. So, but just reach out and have expectation that they're going to do something. And that's my advice. And you know how to not take no for an answer. So that's what I got.
Well, I appreciate both of you. I appreciate, again, how your committee has focused on this is not a red or a blue issue. This is a life or death issue, and politics and that noise and fuzziness and chaos need to be put aside so that people like Alma, like Cassandra, like Lydia, they're very real. Life or death concerns are being addressed, because I don't think anybody went into public service to not try to help and not try to assist. So thank you so much. And I hope and I encourage everybody on this call today to be following up to your elected officials, to send letters as Senator Utke recommended. You can, even if they are not your elected officials, and Senator Abler can probably give a big thumbs up on this. He was not my state senator, and he heard from me a lot. So just know you can reach out to any of the 200 individuals who are elected officials serving the state. So thank you both so much for joining today. Thank you for your continued service, and we look forward to working together this legislative session.
God bless. Thank you.
And now we have 2 more elected officials who are joining us today. So we have State Representative Kim Hicks and State Representative Bianca Vernick, who are joining us. So we'll do kind of a similar format. If you guys want to both kick off and say a short introduction, and then again, if you either already know kind of things you want to say, again, to some of the things that have been spoken about earlier in today's webinar, please feel free. And otherwise, we can do kind of a back and forth conversation too. So I'll let you take it away. And whoever wants to go first should turn their mic on, as I learned earlier.
I will go ahead and kick us off then. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Representative Kim Hicks. I'm a middle-aged woman with long, dark blonde hair, wearing glasses, and I'm wearing a gray shirt. I am sitting in my home with a blurred background. I just want to say thank you for the powerful, powerful stories that have been shared today. They resonate similarly to many of the powerful stories and conversations I've been having with our community over the last several, what what feels like the longest January in the history of time, and December and November, particularly for our community where there's just been a lot of unknowns about services and what that will look like. So I want to say thank you for highlighting your stories today, but I want to say a broader thank you to everyone who's been highlighting their stories. This is not a new conversation for us, and we've been having it since things started around some of these things, but since we started having these conversations in this current moment, this has been new, but these are not new conversations for our community. Conversations about provider quality, conversations about workforce and access to services, conversations about high quality services, conversations about what is needed to keep people in their homes has been ongoing for us forever. That is something that I have been fighting for my entire career. It's something I will continue to fight for to make sure that folks are getting what they need to live the life that they choose. So I appreciate hearing from you again in this space about that. I hope to continue that work in 2026 and beyond. And rather than listening to me ramble, I would love to have a dialogue and answer any questions that anyone has at any time. And I will toss to my dear colleague.
Hello, my name is Bianca Vernig. I represent 52B, Egan, Mendota Heights, and Mendota. I'm a pudgy middle-aged white woman. I have brown kind of highlighted hair. I wear glasses. I'm wearing a white shirt with a green down vest. Also, like Kim, I'm at home with a blurred background. I'm a mother of 3. I have a student with an IEP and one with a 504. I served on the school board before getting elected, and I sat on the Special Ed Advisory Council there. I was elected in a special election 2 years ago, and I serve on the Human Services Committee. I'm new to this kind of work here at the legislature in this space, but not new to human services. And I feel like I'm just learning a lot more. I do the kind of the nerdy stuff. The IT modernization is sort of where I fit into this work, but have been meeting with a lot of community members, folks impacted, providers. And I just want to say, Lydia, Alma, and Cassandra, thank you for sharing your story. It's one of many that we've heard. So I know we're running short on time. We'll just go to your questions. And
Thank you both. So similar, because we are running short on time, but knowing that, this next session will be kicking off here very shortly and hearing from, again, 3 individuals who speak loudly and clearly, uh, but also knowing the hundreds that are on this call representing all parts of this state and have so much fear of uncertainty. I think with Minnesota being put in such a spotlight, again, individuals like us who have disabilities, a lot of these decisions that are out of our hands uh, can be life or death for us and for our family members. So, as you look to this session and knowing there's a lot of layers and a lot of things complicated and things that can happen or not happen, what is one thing that maybe will be a focus for you after hearing from some of these advocates today that you think is an achievable thing to either bring back to colleagues, work with the current administration, put up policy recommendations or talk about in your committee? And then again, that second part, how would you encourage? We know the 3 women today were incredible speakers, but I also know people in my own community. I have a sibling who has the same exact disability as me, who does not speak publicly, and most of his friends would not know what that indivisible disability is. So, what are different ways that all of us can make an impact with the work that you 2 are doing, who are being decision makers? Because again, some of us don't want to speak up, or we don't want to tell our story, or we can't tell our story. So Those would be the two things that I would ask you both to address if you can. And then again, hopefully encouraging involvement in various ways this session.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. So I'm going to answer that question with two things at the front. This is a policy year, and we need to make sure that whatever statute language we change really strengthens policy to make sure that we don't ever end up in this situation again, and that we are meeting the moment appropriately, right? Because the truth of the matter is fraud is always inappropriate. It's always bad, right? But there's a lot of reasons why it's bad. But for me, the driving force is that money that goes to people who aren't providing services or aren't providing high quality services or are inflating services is money that could be going to people's real services that are needed. And so we need to make sure that anything we do, all of our policy changes and statute alignments need to strengthen those things so that we make sure money's getting to the folks that deserve it because they're providing those high quality services. And we know we have lots of providers that are providing high quality services. So that is a priority for me. It is a priority for the committee. I think we will do some wonderful work in that space. And it will be weedy and icky and technical, and it will be unpleasant for all of us, but we will do that work and we will get it done because it is not simple, right? It would be easy. If it was easy, we would have done it by now. So it's going to be difficult, but that we should do hard things. We can do and should do hard things. Which brings me to my next point, which is I am also working on some additional human rights language around people with disabilities that will make sure that we are protected in every space, including public services, so that we can make sure that our rights are not taken away or trampled on in any of those spaces. So I think and the reason that I think that is so important is because access to our services is a civil rights issue. And so we need to think of those things as connected, not separate. As far as what people can do, I think, folks have shared this before, previously, but I will sort of double down with there are lots of ways to make an impact, and that includes showing up to committee, but it also includes emailing and phone calls, and not just to the folks on the committee, but to your elected representatives from your district as well. A lot of times I'll hear from folks who are like, Representative Hicks, here's this thing that's really important in human services. And I'm like, I agree. I'm here. Let me show you the bill that we're doing to work on that. Have you reached out to your rep? Because folks who aren't on human services, folks who do not know anything about human services, they need to know too. And they need to understand as well. So I would really encourage folks to speak out in all of those places. Show up, call, email, make a social media video and tag your elected representatives in it, right? Whatever it is for you, do it and keep doing it. There is no such thing as being too annoying in politics. So keep telling us. Keep telling everybody as many times as you need to. One and done is not how politics works. Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky wheels get the most oil. So be squeaky, squeaky, squeaky in every space. And encourage the people in your life who love you to also be squeaky on your behalf. More voices, more power, more impact.
Okay, so I know we're going short or running short. Okay, so I really think it would be great if we had some sort of long-term vision and plan for the IT systems that includes the funding for development and maintenance like in perpetuity. So those IT systems can be streamlined. We can streamline services. We heard from people like, I have to fill the same form out all the time with my address. And I'm like, we have your address. Can't we pre-populate that? Let's bring these systems into, I don't know, like 2000 instead of 1995. And then a system that can identify risks, right? Is this provider a risk? Because the fraud is really the providers, right? It's not the people who are getting the services. And then that one that can adapt as needs change, that I think would be great. We've put some funding towards it. We just need to execute. I don't think that the agency has like a long-term vision or plan of what that should look like. And I think that plan has to incorporate the counties in that conversation. So I think there's a lot that we could do to help not only make the job better for retention of staff, but the services to clients better, and identify risks that ahead of time, so we are, don't have as much fraud. And then I agree with Senator Aki about keep telling your story. I agree with everything Kim said, Representative Hicks said as well. I think it's also important. I have gone and visited providers and people. They've invited me, hey, come see what my ICS service does for me. Invite your legislator. Also look to your county commissioners, right? Like your counties have a large voice in this as well. So I think it's imperative that your county commissioners understand the value of the programs, the need. And then last but not least, I would say um, I don't like when people just come and say it's broken, it's not working, this sucks. I like when you come and say this is broken and this is how I think you can fix it. This is terrible and this is how we can make it better. So for example, I went to a site yesterday and they gave me 2 pages of notes on this is how we think as a provider we could do this better. I think that is really helpful. Yeah, so thanks for having me.
Thank you both for that. I think you guys make excellent points and recommendations. Again, I know with my experience being a grassroots advocate that we have to bring everybody to the table. And, again, we can't, I think in these times, they certainly can feel dark and hopeless. But knowing that everybody's voice is critical and the people who are impacted the most, those are the voices that we're looking for. Because again, like you said, Representative Vernig, it's them telling their story of how it is broken and what could be done so that you as an elected official then can be making those policy adjustments, Representative Hicks, as you said. So thank you both so much for joining today. And I hope that you will be hearing a lot of squeaking in the very near future. You will get some squeaking from me. And I hope I'm encouraging the 1,000 people on this call to squeak along with me. So thank you so much again. And we look forward to working together this legislative session. And we know that we are running a little bit over, but we have our agency representatives coming up here at the very end, which actually was, I know Representative Vernig had said, talk to your county, and so anyways, next up, we will have the county person speak second, but first up, I'm going to introduce Heidi Hamilton, who is the Disability Service Director at DHS. And so because we're short on time, I'm just gonna let you take it away, Heidi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you, Quinn. As Quinn said, I'm Heidi Hamilton. I'm the Director of Disability Services Division. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with gray hair, glasses, with a blurred background. And I'm so glad that I've been able to participate today and to be able to hear the stories that people are sharing. I've been Disability Services Director for 3 years, but I have worked at the department for over 20 years, and this is really unprecedented times that we're in. Having the threats of fraud and CMS oversight and trying to balance that with making sure that we are getting people the services that they need to live. It is really hard right now. I've never seen anything like this from the federal level and the way that we are needing to work with them and to meet the standards that they are setting forth for us to assure that we are addressing fraud. We recently submitted our plan to CMS. You may have seen we submitted a plan in December and they said that wasn't good enough. And so we did submit a new plan last week. I do want you all to know that we are working across the agency. So we have policy staff, the provider enrollment staff, the Office of Inspector General, the Commissioner's Office. We are all working together to make sure that what's important for each of those areas is brought together so that we can continue to make sure that we are providing services. We do acknowledge that we have made some missteps in our communication and we are making improvements in how we communicate to providers and how we communicate to people and how we communicate to lead agencies of what's happening. But this is just getting started, this additional federal oversight. And it is important that all of us work together to make sure that we have a sustainable Medicaid system that continues to meet the needs of people in our community. I had other comments to make, but I know that I want Terry and Josh to be able to give their perspective as well. So I really I'm so thankful to be able to participate today and to be able to hear the stories that were shared.
Thank you so much, Heidi. We appreciate it, and we wish we had a lot longer so that we could have a dialogue, but no, we know that your agency is open and ready to hear some of the continued needs and services that need to be addressed. So appreciate you taking the time today. And next up, as I had said, we have a county representative with us today from St. Louis County. So I will tee up for Terry McCabe. I didn't even know the state representative was going to tee it up for you or for me. So I'm going to let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Quinn. My name is Terry McCabe, and I am the Home and Community-Based Services Director here at St. Louis County. I am a white woman with blondish gray hair, glasses, and I'm wearing a black and red top, and I'm in my office today with a blurred background. I've worked for St. Louis County for over 35 years, the last 25 or so in disability services. I'm also the mom of 2 adult children with cystic fibrosis. Yeah, I want to say thank you first and foremost to Lydia, to Alma, and to Cassandra for sharing your stories. It is just a very poignant reminder that our business is relational. We have to build working relationships at every single level. You know, I think solutions in isolation, although well-intended, often create additional work and don't address the original concern that they were intended to address. So echoing what Heidi said, I appreciate the efforts at communication. As a lead agency, I feel like oftentimes we're hearing things in real time. And I know that's been the department's experience as well. There's a lot happening. And I think continued efforts at communication and building relationships across our care continuum is just super important. I appreciated also what Representative Vernig said about building systems infrastructure. I can tell you from a county perspective, it's really disheartening to me to see case managers spending more time at their desks than out with people. And I think they would echo my sentiment. So building that systems infrastructure to help with accountability, to help with you know, efficiency, that is so important. And I appreciated her pointing that out. From the county perspective, we've certainly been on the ground here with people. We've had 2 PCA agencies close as the result of a number of things, but prepayment review, the warrant cycle issue, and that's been really difficult. We prioritize when these things happen because it's an immediate crisis. We know that people need those basic services to live, to function, to, you know, do what you need to do every day. So please know that we understand that we are here with you, for you. We serve to make things better in our communities. I think we have that goal. I believe, you know, we are aligned with DHS. I keep hearing them say, keep focus on the mission. The mission is people. So we get that, and we will continue to hang in there and do our best to serve and support. So, yep, and I saw just a quick note from Heidi. The first place a person should go, and we want you to go, is to come to your case manager if you're having difficulty. We want to help you problem solve. We want to work through those issues, and it is complex. You know, like I said, relationship building at every level, you know, counties, DHS, legislators, administration, all focused on the people. So that's, yeah. Thank you so
And
much for this opportunity.
And Terry, I think it's wonderful that you came today so that again we show that critical role that counties do play. I know my mom was a county commissioner in Crow Wing County
Mhm.
for 12 years. And again, what a focus of health and human services there was on that very local level. And so, are there ways that maybe, again, you know, a lot of our focus is okay, it's the state legislative session to help make change. But what on the county level can advocates do um, to to help support that change in their own backyards? What would you recommend? I know somebody had said reaching
Mhm.
out to their county commissioner. Is that going to a county commissioner meeting? What would you recommend for people so that they can be really impactful in their local community?
Yeah, I think reaching out to a county commissioner for sure. I think reaching out to your county agency, your case manager, you know, reaching out to their supervisor. I mean, we want to problem solve, and hearing what is happening, hearing the stories. Is so important. And I can tell you, I mean, just even, you know, in my position, I'm a few steps removed from what's happening, but those stories are really important for me to hear. And, you know, coming here today and hearing again people's stories is impactful. It's helpful to understand. I think also brainstorming solutions is important. So, you know, I think if people have ideas about how things could be changed, we are interested in hearing that as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Quinn.
No, I think it's great. And again, we really want practical things that people can take away from today's
Yeah.
webinar. And so again, I love that we have the county component because some people maybe realize that kind of local connection that we can be very
Mhm.
impactful at. And sometimes I think we don't remember kind of the city and the county and again how the county
Yeah.
plays a big role in human services.
Yeah, I can't stress enough. It's a relational business, and that's how we get things done is building relationships to me. You know, and I feel like that's part of what's kind of gone wrong in our world lately is there's some dehumanization and just, you know, we just don't see the people. We don't slow down enough to listen. And at a fundamental level, we have to get out of this reactive mode and slow down enough to listen and be thoughtful and move together, coordinated. Um, you know,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And as Terry had said, I know we got questions in immediately after Heidi had finished about if people do have a concern or again, where do they turn? And so, like Heidi has told us, and also Terry, the first place a person should go is their case manager who can help hopefully
Mhm.
answer those questions, plan for services. And if then you don't get what you need from your case manager, you can contact the Disability Hub at
Yes.
866 333 2466. So that is available to everyone. Thank you so much, Terry. And
Thank
now
you.
our last speaker is Josh Berg from Accessible Spaces. And he knows we're running short on time, but we want to hear his voice. So I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Quinn, and huge shout out and thank you to David and the council for pulling this conversation together. As mentioned, my name is Josh Berg. I am a white male with brown hair, some gray sprinkled in, and one of those very squeaky, very annoying folks that is very proud to do this work. And I just want to say thank you to Alma, Cassandra, and Lydia, especially for the voice you brought today, along with the voices that testified last week in the Senate Human Services Committee, the voices of individuals that have been most directly impacted by all of this. I bring one of the things I bring is the provider voice to this conversation, but it is just one voice amongst the many stakeholders. And I think it's perfect that it's not the first voice you've heard today. The most important voices were the voices of individuals that are living and depending on these critical supports and services, this system that has been under attack from so many different angles. And yes, we providers are a part of that, but we're just a small part of that. And we are, along that continuum. And there have been real impacts, as been highlighted, and I don't need to reiterate that, from the prepayment review, pausing of payments to all providers, legitimate providers. And in many cases, it was a 2-week delay, but in almost 40% of these high-risk providers, it was up to 40% of providers didn't get paid for 4 weeks. That's multiple payrolls that have staff that are another huge component of this discussion that I think Alma commented on as well. Of these are individuals that are doing fantastic, meaningful, important, critical work that they too depend on their providers to be able to get reimbursed for the services that they are providing, so that they can keep their own livelihood and take care of their own families and their kids and continue to live their life. So, I think we've heard and seen a lot of acknowledgement of how we got here. I think kudos to David and the council for bringing this conversation to a place of, all right, now we need to come together as a stakeholder community, start to move forward, start to bring solutions that are meaningful, that not only address and prevent fraud from happening in the first place, but you'll hear throughout the legislative session and moving forward, providers and all stakeholders want to get rid of fraud. We want to enhance the system so that we can all do a better job supporting individuals, raise the barrier to entry so that we can have a higher expectation, a higher standard to provide better quality care and services to individuals across the state. And a lot of the solutions are already here. And I think where many of the missteps or issues have come from is a lack of collaboration and a lack of communication. And it feels like voices of those are reaching the right people, and they're going into the right ears. And now we'll need to see, will the department, will the administration, and will legislators continue to hear and act upon the stories and the impacts and the voices that they're hearing. Over the last few days, it sounded good, but now we need to sustain that, and we need to turn it into meaningful action. As I've been sitting on this call, I'm already getting texts that payment holds are starting to go back out again. And so there are providers that are getting letters still this week. And now we'll see, is that continuity of care going to be there? Is that work and that collaboration and that communication going to happen, so that the people that are receiving these services, are they being put at the center of this entire process? I want to hope that that's the case. But I think over the last several months, there's a lot of reasons to doubt that or be concerned or be worried about it. We'll give the benefit of the doubt. I hope we can move forward. There's a whole slew of us stakeholders that want to work with the department and the administration and legislators, and we are very passionate to do so. But I continue to encourage everybody on here, any individual or family member of an individual receiving services or being supported, to make sure your voice is heard, and to utilize any avenue possible to tell your story, because it is going to be far more impactful than anything I say or try to do. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and just continue to work together, and I think we'll get there.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I know we could have spent the whole time talking with you. Thank you for being an advocate for all of us. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your continued work that you do for every Minnesotan to have equal access. And we know there's a lot of work to be done. So thank you so much. I want to thank everybody who spoke today. I want to thank everybody who participated in one of the polls today. Um, I want to say your voice, your story, your experiences. I know we have a lot of providers who joined today who are also very fearful, who are in this line of work to help people, right? And it is sad and unfortunate in 2026, like some of our speakers said earlier, that we have to even have this conversation and take this time. But again, the only way it's going to happen is if we keep squeaking in all different ways, in all different corners of our state. And to Alma, Cassandra, Lydia, Lydia, as you said, when services are stopped, you can't eat, you can't shower, you can't change your clothes. We all need to come together as a state, rise above the noise and everything that is going on to elevate these stories, because this is really how it is impacting our most vulnerable and everyday citizens. And again, I think when we were born and we were sometimes handed cards that were beyond our control, we were not asked what political party we were. And that's why I think it's crucial the work that MCD does as a nonpartisan organization. I want to encourage you again to continue to bring us your stories, to bring us your concerns, so that we can do what we can to address those. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. And again, we shouldn't have to justify basic human rights. But what I know about my home state is that we are able to raise our voice in various different ways to make change. And again, I hope if we do this event again, that some of those polls would change and we can all see maybe a little bit more light. But let's make sure to all commit to being squeaky together in all different ways this legislative session, and keep the pressure on and keep those stories and the faces coming towards those who are making the decisions. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to MCD. I believe that there is a final slide that is being populated. But again, very grateful for you all joining us for this event. I am reading off the slide that is now on screen. This was the event titled Let's Talk About Disability Services in Minnesota. An event survey will be emailed to you. Please let us know your feedback. Again, everything is anonymous, and you can certainly put your name if you would like. Again, we can be the very best we can be by hearing that honest feedback from events like this, also what you want to see in the future, how we can all partner together. And lastly, reading from the screen here is please stay in touch. So we gave a couple different ways throughout this webinar about how to connect. Our electeds gave us some suggestions, but also please visit us via social media on Facebook. That's the Minnesota Council on Disability. You can also visit us on our website at disability.state.mn.us or by phone at 651-361-7805, or at any time you can email council.disability@state.mn.us. I would encourage you all that you can subscribe to the monthly MCD newsletter that they send out. They do a wonderful job. Again, especially as we kick off this next legislative session, you can see and hear the priorities, things that are working, if there's needs. Again, it's a great way to stay with what is being done at MCD and how we can also help elevate your voice. So again, please look at us as a friend, as a partner. We can only do this and make this impact by working together and hearing each other and looking at each other as human beings. So thank you so much. It's been a privilege to be able to be your moderator today. I hope and look forward to meeting many of you and hearing more of your stories. Thank you.